there was all this evidence that we could actually treat people based on their DNA in a very personalized way. And it was a lot of evidence, a lot of science. So that's what got me first interested, is just seeing it looks like there's a better way. We don't need to treat everyone like one size fits all. That is the coolest thing about epigenetics, is that basically, if you have a big enough data set, you can predict anything with epigenetics.
Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Dr. Lowe Show. It is great to be kicking off a new season, a new year, fresh information. I know that it's very motivating when the beginning of the year happens. People love to get back on their health kick and take good care of themselves. So hopefully this will be inspiring for you, motivating for you. We have a very accomplished guest. We have Dr. Matthew Dawson on the show. He is the founder and CEO of Wild Health, a genomics-based precision medicine company. And he's also the CEO of Diagnostic, which is an epigenetics testing lab. If you don't know what that means, it's okay. We're going to talk about it. You'll learn all about epigenetics and be a pro by the end of this episode. He's authored a couple textbooks. He's published over a couple dozen studies, lectured in over 20 countries. He's won national awards for education and innovation. My favorite part, though, is that he lives in the woods. He lives in the woods with his wife, 4 kids, a couple dogs. That's what I'm talking about. His passion is unlocking the secrets of the genome and the epigenome, and we'll talk about what that is, and using them to optimize health and maximize health span, which is very different than just lifespan. So we'll get into that. So Dr. Dawson, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you. It is wonderful living in the woods, unless you have a blizzard and an ice storm, which we've had the last couple of days. So it's been a chore digging our way out of the woods and into civilization. So yeah.
Pros and cons. So what part of the country is this woods home?
Yeah, we're in Kentucky. That's where I'm from originally. I was gone for a while out west, and then we came back when we started having children, because we have 4 kids and all the family is here. So it's nice. Although I'm very jealous of your ocean beach background right now. That looks nice.
Yeah, fake it till I make it. I'm actually about at least half hour from the beach, but it's close by. And yeah, so I got married recently in June, and my husband has 4 kids, and I have one that I brought into it. So we have 5 now. So growing our tribe. I love it. I love a big family. Lots of legacy, lots of memories you get to make. So that's beautiful. What kind of dogs do you have? I have to know. I'm a big dog person.
We have a couple. One is a Bernedoodle, and the other is just one we got from the Humane Society. Just a little yellow dog is what we call her breed.
I love that. My family actually they had 2 Bernedoodles too. They're amazing, and they don't shed. So that's nice.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. So let's dive into the topic. What got you into epigenetics, genetics as a world of medicine, as a career? And, let's just dive more into some of the basics of what the heck those are.
Sure. Yeah, a lot of big words, big words there to unpack. Yeah, I was practicing traditional medicine in the system after coming out of residency, and enjoyed it. It's such a privilege to be a physician in practice and try to get to help people. But I started getting really disillusioned with the fact that I didn't feel like I actually was doing a lot of good. Like I saw people getting sicker and sicker, and just felt like the traditional way just wasn't helping that many. I mean, it's great if you have a car accident or you need surgery or something big, but when it comes to the chronic things that are killing us, we were getting sicker. And it was about 6 years ago or so, I started seeing all of this science emerging around precision medicine, specifically genomics at first. And it looked like there was all this evidence that we could actually treat people based on their DNA in a very personalized way. And it was a lot of evidence, a lot of science, but no one was really doing it. So that's what got me first interested, is just seeing it looks like there's a better way. We don't need to treat everyone like one size fits all. And so we started doing that. My co-founder of Wild Health, Mike, Mallin, and I, we sequenced our own DNA. We started looking at this. He went through a difficult health issue where he found out he had extremely high lipids. His doctor told him to do a certain diet. He got worse on that, even though the diet works for most people. He's not most people. He's Mike. And then his doctor wanted to put him on a statin, which works for most people. Unfortunately, he's Mike, and he got really bad muscle breakdown, myopathy, didn't tolerate it. And as he's going through this, we saw that he had a very specific gene that made him almost guaranteed to have those symptoms. And looking at his genes, it looked like he needed to be on the opposite diet of what his doctor had told him. And it was frustrating to see him suffer through this, knowing that actually he didn't have to if we just had this information a little before. And we at first got frustrated with his physician, and then we realized, well, no one's practicing this way. No one's doing it. And so we started doing it. We started seeing people and started getting really phenomenal results when we really personalize the care that we give and the recommendations that we make.
Wow. So did you find that the diet that works for you is totally different than Mike?
100%. And that was really interesting and like kind of an aha moment for us. So we saw that he had all these sensitivities to like saturated fats and things, all these FDO, PPAR gamma, PPAR alpha, SNPs. I didn't have any of those, but it looked like I was very sensitive to carbohydrates. So it looked like that almost that I should be on more of an animal heavy ketogenic diet, whereas he probably needed to be on almost a vegan diet, like really very low animal saturated fat. So we did some fun studies with that. We would, for a couple weeks, we would eat exactly his diet and do the same workouts and do labs before and after. And he would destroy me in the workouts. We were on his diet. He felt great. I felt horrible. My labs looked bad. His labs looked great.
Wow. And
Then we
which
would
labs? Like what did you actually test when you were looking at your labs?
all the normal ones, but the ones we really were looking at that were really interesting to watch is around lipids and inflammation.
Okay.
Uh, and that was really interesting. And we also would wear CGMs. We'd kind of see our glucose disposal and how that was going. And so, yeah, I would be inflamed when eating his diet. When we would switch, all of a sudden, the same workouts we were doing that he was beating me at, I was performing better. I felt good. He felt bad. Labs were reversed. And we were like, no wonder that people, it's like a religious war when people talk about diets because they'll find the one that works for themselves and thinks that's the perfect human diet. And no, it's the perfect diet for them. But we're also bio-individual that we really need to find our own perfect diet.
Wow. Have you tested your kids and do you find that there's similarities in the way that they need to eat? You did?
So I haven't tested them yet. And it's interesting at Wild Health, we made an early decision to not see kids because there's a little bit of ethical issue around like, are they really consenting to have their DNA done? And so
Yeah,
we
that's a good
haven't. It's
point.
funny though, my 13-year-old who she's an athlete, she's on me quite often to say, hey, can you test me? Can you just test me so we can, because she hears me talk about, because even with athletics, there's a lot of personalization. I had some big aha moments for myself when it came to, I was doing Ironman racing at the time and a lot of injuries, tendon ligaments, a lot of inflammation, a lot of volume. And I saw that I needed to do less volume because of some specific things around ACT and some inflammatory things. And I needed a lot more collagen protein. And so when I made those two adjustments, no more tendon ligament injuries. I
Wow.
felt so much better, performed better. So she's heard me talk about that stuff. And so she wants to personalize, but I haven't yet.
That's so fascinating. I think about like pro athletes, for example. I mean, every team should be testing all their athletes and customizing that. And I mean, their performance, I'm sure, just their seasons would be way more, successful.
It's crazy they don't. We take care of a lot of pro athletes, and it's funny. Some of them share with their teammates, and then others want to keep it a secret because they think it's like their little secret.
Their
Um,
edge.
yeah, we had a max contract NBA player recently took care of. This is a great example. He actually came because having mood issues throughout the season, kind of depression, just a lot of mood issues. And and the reason is because he was living a lifestyle very different from what his genetics said he should be doing. So right before every game, he did the same thing as all of his other teammates. He would do a bunch of Red Bull, caffeine, things to get you up. Because we know for decades we've known caffeine is an ergogenic aid, makes you perform better athletically. But if you look at the actual studies, not everybody, it's about 80% of people. And when you tease it out, it's fast metabolizers, genetically fast metabolizers, which is about 80% of people. They do perform better. Slow metabolizers actually perform worse with caffeine. And we found out he was a slow metabolizer and he had a specific gene related to sleep that made caffeine more negatively impact his sleep than other people. So that combination was destroying his sleep. He couldn't get to sleep. He would finally wake up in the morning for shoot around, have to drink a bunch of caffeine to wake up, get in this negative cycle, and it was destroying his mood. And when we fixed that, he all of a sudden was in talks to win the MVP the next year. Like he performed
Dang.
great. And it's crazy that every pro athlete doesn't do this level of personalization.
Heck yeah. I have a couple pro baseball patients. So I'm definitely going to be doing this to help them. I mean, a lot of what we've done has helped so much, but it's like, sky's the limit when you customize it. That's amazing.
Mhm.
I think I treat a lot of depression with my patients, and we know that the depression is linked to brain inflammation. So, like, they could be having, a brain healthy diet, right? All the good fats and high protein and all that stuff to maybe regulate their blood sugar potentially. But yeah, it could be creating more inflammation for them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Sleep is so critical for that. It's
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So, yeah, I know at first I'm like, dang, it'd be cool to test everybody right at birth to give them like the ideal diet for them. But I totally see what you're saying with the ethical part of checking their, DNA, and that should be their decision. So it's a good
Well,
point. Yeah, there's a lot of ethics with this.
yeah, and I think my concern, like when we first made that decision, the specific thing I was thinking about was, I had kids that were just getting into athletics, and I started seeing some of these parents and like how extreme they get and like driving their kids, and I can see how it could be used. For example, I'll give you another example. I have a specific gene around FAH, fatty acid amine hydrolase. It's a rare form, but it makes it almost impossible for me to feel anxiety and have a really high pain tolerance. Because
Sweet.
of that, the perfect position for me, I played every sport growing up, but my favorite thing in the world was being a goalkeeper. My favorite thing in history is a goalkeeper, is a shootout. It's me against the team. Because I didn't feel that pressure. I loved it. And so there's a lot of things around COMT, FAH, that where you could really look at your team and change their positions based on what they're more mentally and physically suited for.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and I was like, I don't know if I want parents and coaches pigeonholing kids because of their genetics. And I'd rather them
Yeah, that's a
kind of
good
figure it
point.
out on their own and
That's
have a little bit of
fascinating.
autonomy.
We hear a lot about MTHFR and it's like blown up as this thing that just controls all things with health. And I don't agree with that at all. And there's other things that are involved with methylation, right? Can you just touch on that a little bit more?
Yeah. Um, it's one of my pet peeves, the MTHFR
Same.
stuff.
Yep.
Um, because people will, when I see people testing for MTHFR, a lot of times it looks like it's an excuse for someone to put them on a supplement that they're selling and make money from them. That's what it feels like to me most of the time. There
Totally.
are a ton of MTHFR genes. There's not just one. So if you're a scrupulous person, you 100% will find one of the MTHFR genes that have a variant that you could justify putting someone on a supplement. But not everyone that has certain variants of MTHFR need supplementation. We look at like what is that predisposition, like we'll have scoring systems for that, but then we will look at how are you methylating, like we'll look at your homocysteine level, for example. And you may have a predisposition to not methylate great, but if your homocysteine is wonderful, you're probably already fixing that with your lifestyle and diet, and so we're not going to recommend any supplementation. So sometimes it's just more information. It's not something that tells us do this. It's just another piece of the puzzle. And honestly, that's what all genetics are. Even though we're a genomics company, I tell people all the time, genetics by themselves are worthless in my mind. Like you have to have
Mhm.
it as part of the whole picture of talking to the person. What are their labs? What are their goals? Everything else. So
Yeah.
MTHFR useful, but I think it's just overblown a lot.
100%. You can have two people with a very similar genetic panel and two very different pictures of health, right? So if you're
Exactly.
running like taking a full history, doing all of their actual lab work to check, like you said, lipids, inflammation. I do a lot of micronutrient testing, hormone testing, all of that. It might be night and day, right? Based on their environment, based on their lifestyle, all of that. You find that
Yeah,
too?
and you can put numbers to this. So genetics have been shown to usually they account for about 20% of the actual health outcome. The other 80% are all the things you mentioned, what you eat, your stress levels, how you sleep, and that is epigenetics. So when your very first question you ask about genetics and epigenetics. So epigenetics is that other 80%. It's so you have our genetics that you're born with, but how much you express every single one of these genes is dependent on what you do and all of those other things that are within our control. So we look at someone's advantages, disadvantages, what risk factors, but then we really focus on the epigenetic part and what we can do.
Mhm. Right. It'd be amazing if people go to their primary care and instead of, getting a medication, it's like, all right, let's look at your genes. These are things that you can do to turn on your good genes, turn off the bad genes. And that's really precision medicine, right? But I mean, are doctors even, oh, like, I guess, because I'm a naturopathic doctor, so we're obviously in kind of a different world, but with conventional medicine, are they even talking about this stuff? Are they talking about it with patients?
So we certainly do. That's exactly how we talk about it at Wild Health. My mother, for example, my grandmother had dementia, so I was worried about my mother. I looked at all of her genes, and I found she had ApoE4, so it made her 2 to 3 times more likely. And
Was
what
it
you
4-4 or 3-4?
just a 3-4, so but still, that's about 200 to 300% more likely to develop. And as you mentioned, the 4-4, that puts you at like 11 to 13 times increased risk. But when we saw this, what I said to my mom is like, hey, mom, this is great news. Like, we know you have this, we know what to do about it. So here are the things we're going to do so that we down regulate that and make it less of a risk. So exactly what you mentioned. We identify it, and then we talk about how to mitigate it if it's a risk, or play to it if it's a strength.
I actually have the same alteration, the three,
Mhm.
four. So let's say your mom and I both have the ApoE3/4. Would you have different recommendations based on the two of us, taking into account the rest of our whole panel?
For sure. Yeah.
Mhm,
So if I knew nothing about you except the ApoE4, what I would say is like, okay, there's a lot of general things like Dale Bredesen's The End of Alzheimer's is great. It goes over all those
mhm,
basics. Wonderful. Like, kind of start there. And anybody that's got a four and is worried about it, I say, hey, read that and some basic things.
mhm,
In the specifics of what to do. So we'll use my mom as an example. When we talk about diets, I mentioned like keto and vegan earlier. We don't actually talk about it that way with patients. We get very specific around foods, like what foods are your superfoods, what foods are your kryptonite foods. So for her, what we found is, for example, she had a VDR SNP, meaning she probably needs more vitamin D. She had a BCMO1, needs more vitamin A. A FADS2 needs more omega-3. Collagen 5A1 needs more collagen. So the algorithm, the kind of AI algorithm we built, took all that into account and said, okay, for you, the world's perfect food is going to be a sardine. It's got all the clean omega-3s, the collagen, the vitamin A, the vitamin D, all of these things and it will kind of plug all of those holes for her. Now,
so
she also
cool.
had like an SH2B3, which means wheat and gluten are probably inflammatory for her. And as you mentioned, kind of inflammatory with the brain, that's a really
Mhm,
big risk factor for dementia. And she had an MCM6. So dairy is going to be inflammatory for her. So we kind of identify those kryptonite foods, superfoods, and then we continue down the list, finding like what foods are going to most benefit her DNA versus which ones she should not be consuming.
Dang, that's so cool. Did she follow your recommendations?
Yeah, it in 3 months she lost 40 pounds, and she told me that she felt 20 years younger. And
Wow.
when she said that, I my thought was like, okay, chronologically you're 3 months older, but you may actually extend your life by 15 to 20 years by these incredible, like, she reversed her insulin resistance, she lost all this weight. And I was like, she probably did kind of push out when she would get dementia or start downhill by 15 to 20 years. So I think she was onto something by saying she felt 20 years younger, because biologically she probably did add that much to her
Yeah.
life. Keeps it
Age
up.
really ain't nothing but a number. So I'll totally agree with that. What's the difference between health span and lifespan?
Yeah, for sure. Lifespan I could care less about. Like, just making people live longer is not that
Right.
interesting to me. But having people be able to live longer in a healthy state, that's what health span is. And I define kind of health span, and probably just health in general, is as your ability to do what you want to do with the people you want to do it. And whether that's competing athletically in something for a long time, or dancing at your great great granddaughter's wedding, or whatever it is. And that's how, just being bedridden and alive, it's not interesting like how long you actually live. It's how long you're actually able to do those things that bring you joy and with the people that you love.
100%. To me, that's freedom. That's my number one value is freedom. Live
Yeah.
your life and enjoy your life,
Yeah.
100%. So with the genetic testing, it's not with the cheek swab, right? It's with the finger prick.
So the genetic testing itself is a saliva test. The epigenetic test, if we get into the epigenetics, that is a blood test and a finger stick. Yeah, but just the
Gotcha.
genetic itself is a saliva test. Yeah.
Okay. And then the epigenetic testing, what are things that are included in that finger prick?
Yeah. So we've talked about kind of what epigenetics are in general. So there's a couple things with epigenetics. The main way that people have been exposed to epigenetics is through biologic age testing. So that's a common thing that a lot of people. So at True Diagnostic, that's what we do. So we'll look at someone's biologic age, which is a better measure of health span and how much health span you're going to have. And we look at it. We give a few different scores. So we have something called the True Age test. So if you were to order that from True Diagnostic, you would get an omic image. This is a biologic age test developed by Harvard that is the best one at telling you the best prediction on how much more health span, lifespan you have left. You also get a symphony age. Now, our organ systems age at different rates. Like my mother's brain may age a little more quickly because they ApoE4 compared to kidneys or lungs or other things. So Yale developed this biologic age test called Symphony Age that tells you your age of different organ systems. So we report on that as well. And the last biologic age test that we report on is called the PACE. So this was developed by Duke. It's actually my favorite of the three. And it gives you your pace of aging. The reason I like this is for a couple of reasons. One, it tells you what's going on right now. So that omic age or symphony age, a lot of that could have been done, had to do with what things you did in your 20s or 30s if you're in your 40s now, like me. But I want to know what's going on right now. So what is my pace of aging? How am I doing right now? And I also like it because it's very sensitive to change. So it's been shown that if you get pregnant, for example, that's a physiologic stress. Your rate of aging goes up by 20%, but then it comes down when you deliver the baby. If
Mm.
you get in a car accident, get COVID, have hip surgery, your rate of aging goes up. When you recover, it comes back down. So what that allows me to do as a clinician is see not just where you are, but then do N of one experiments. Like if someone wants to experiment with a vegan diet or a keto diet or a carnivore diet, say, well, okay, hold on, let's measure your rate of aging now. Try the diet if we think it will work for you, and then let's remeasure your rate of aging in 8 to 12 weeks. And Stanford did a really cool study about a year ago, a twin study where they were switching people back and forth between omnivore and vegan diets, and they used this pace test, and they found that in 8 weeks you could find a difference in your rate of aging going up or down. So something like that, or if you want to start any new protocol or get IV stem cells, something that's very expensive like IV stem cells, where you want to have an objective measure of is it working or not. So I use
Right.
that PACE test to be able to kind of follow this global marker of aging and how different interventions affect your aging.
So cool. I love like, what's your score on the scoreboard? It's motivating too, right? You can see change. I know that sometimes with just doing your genetic panel itself, it's like, okay, it is what it is, right? But that's really not the case. You can alter how the actual physiology changes in your body. So very empowering for people,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Very motivating. What are some misconceptions about epigenetics? What are things that people are kind of off regarding that?
Um, I think in the past, some people have felt like epigenetics and like the biologic age tests aren't good enough, aren't actionable enough.
Hmm.
And I would say I completely agree with that 5 years ago. So, and there's also the problem with when we talk about biologic age is there's anyone could come up with any calculator at any time to quote unquote calculate your biologic age.
Yeah.
But is it published on? Is it proven? Does it actually tell you something you want to know, like your predicted health span or how fast you're aging? So that's why the three that I mentioned are the ones we use because those are ones that have been the most validated and shown to be the best, the ones developed by
Hmm.
Duke, Yale, and Harvard, those three. So I think that's the biggest misconception is that it's maybe not ready for prime time or doesn't work.
Hmm.
Most don't. 95% of the quote unquote biologic age tests out there aren't that good. But
Yeah.
there are very good research based, evidence based ones that exist now.
How does this relate to telomere length?
Yeah, so telomere length is something that we were very excited about several years ago. More
Right.
recently, it's just been shown to not be as predictive and as good of a predictor as other things. So we do in our reports, there's a telomere length predictor that someone developed using epigenetics. And so
Hmm.
we do have a
Cool.
report of that in our report. I generally steer people away from it and like, hey, this is some information for you, but I wouldn't make much of this. It's less predictive than the epigenetic biologic age
Hmm.
result.
That's really cool. Yeah, I remember back in the day when I had my busy brick and mortar clinic, we had all these different reps coming in and trying to, have us do all kinds of telomere testing, and it's the buzz thing, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, I always wondered about how legit it actually was. And I like that there's a way to check it epigenetically where,
Mhm.
you can actually see a change in that, and something that's a little more useful. So that makes sense. What else? What are other things in this kind of arena that you think are good to touch on for people?
Yeah. Somebody turned the heat up here, so I just took my sweatshirt off. Uh,
It's getting hot in
uh,
here.
yeah. Um, so you mentioned something. You mentioned like it's cool we can predict telomere with epigenetics. So that is the coolest thing about epigenetics is that basically, if you have a big enough data set, you can predict anything with epigenetics. So, and this is what I'm probably most excited about in science and medicine right now, period. We just completed a study with Harvard. We put a pre-pub out a few weeks ago But several years ago, there was a researcher named Marioni who he found that he could predict CRP levels looking at gene expression. And this makes sense. Everything you do, if you get a disease, you start expressing your genes differently. So you can find the fingerprint for that disease. That's how tests like the Grail test or Cologuard work. So you can predict disease with epigenetics. But even listening to this podcast, your listeners, they're changing their gene expression through that. So we could potentially find what the epigenetic fingerprint is of people really enjoying a podcast versus not. You can predict almost anything.
Oh my
So
gosh, it's so
Marioni,
funny.
yeah, it's really cool. So Marioni found that you could predict CRP, like your level of inflammation. And then when he compared that predicted CRP to the LabCorp version of CRP to see how good it was, he actually found that it performed better than the LabCorp version at predicting cognitive impairment, which we've already talked about.
Wow.
And the reason is because CRP will bounce around throughout the day. So just like I don't really care that much about a spot glucose, I want your A1C, the average over time. This is
Mhm.
showing the biologic effect of that CRP over time. So it's actually a better measurement. So we did this study with Harvard. They have a 100,000 patient biobank where we looked at could we find some more of these biomarkers that are upgraded versions of the traditional one. We found 1,600 biomarkers that we could predict, and the majority of them perform better than their standard counterparts. So we actually pulled out the first kind of, I think, 130 but best performing ones and put those into a product that we call True Health now that we've launched recently. And so we report on about 130 vitamins, minerals, nutrients, lipids, omega levels, all of these things, all through epigenetics. And they all perform better than kind of their normal lab core versions when it comes to predicting disease and outcomes. So that's what I'm most excited in the future. So right now with a couple drops of blood on a dried blood spot card, we can predict about 1,600 other biomarkers, not just the telomere thing and the biologic age. We're still validating all those 1,600 to find which ones are the best, and we'll continue to roll those out. But it's what we can predict with epigenetics. I tell people it's limited by your imagination and the size of the data set. That's it.
That's fascinating. And it's so nice for people to not have to get their blood drawn,
Hmm.
just a poke. So, wow, that's super cool. Well, I would love to, hear as things roll out even more and just getting more on the updates on this is fascinating. I want to get this panel done for me too. And I want to share it with my audience, show them what I find. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, you should.
Especially with the family history. I have a strong family history of dementia, Alzheimer's. What's interestingly, the ApoE34, the four doesn't seem to come from that side of the family, which I think is really, really bizarre. It's on the other side that doesn't have those diseases. But on that side, there's more like Parkinson's and like cancer and stuff like that. So,
Mm.
so it's fascinating, right? It doesn't always necessarily pan out where that's how the disease shows up, but there's that predisposition.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean,
Yeah.
having the four increases your chances about 300%. It doesn't guarantee it though. There's a lot of
Right.
other factors involved. So
Yeah,
yeah.
100%. Well, interestingly, on the side of the family that has the four, it's exercise has always been huge on that side. A lot of athletes, so maybe that's a factor. You know,
100% makes a
yeah,
big
yeah.
difference.
All right, cool. Well, I think this is fascinating, for sure. Some information we haven't talked about on the show, so I think this will be something that is going to spark some new interest, and I'm sure a lot of people listening will want to do this. So for those listening who want to get this run, obviously they're probably not going to get this from their primary care, right? They have to get this separately, probably through a functional medicine or naturopathic doctor, or
Mhm.
can they get this on their own?
Yeah, that's right. They actually can get it on their own. So the epigenetic test that I just mentioned, that's just at truediagnostic.com.
Hmm.
So that's where you can get the true age test with the biologic age, like we talked about, and the pace of aging, and the true health, which is all the other vitamins and nutrients. And we'll get one out to you, Dr. Lowe, so you can
Sweet.
see it too.
And it'd
Because
be cool. Maybe we can have you back on and be like, hey, check it out, guys. This is what we saw for me. And this is, what I'm going to implement. I mean, people love being behind the scenes and part of the journey. So that'd be really fun if you're down.
yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. We'll do it. We'll send you like kind of a combination kit to do both, and then any of your listeners that want to get one and follow along when we do
Oh,
your episode,
cool.
go through it, and we can talk about what to do about all of it because
Oh my
that's
gosh, I love it.
that's always the real thing. It's like what's next? How do we
Yeah.
actually improve these scores?
Yeah. We'll put that all in the show notes, how you guys can hop on that. But yeah, get on your kit and let's do some testing together, see what we
And
find.
we'll make a discount code for all your listeners too if they do want to
Okay.
along.
Sweet.
That'd be
They
fun.
love
So
the discount codes. That sounds perfect.
yeah.
Yay. Well, how can people keep up with what you're up to and follow along and stay in touch with you?
Yeah, I consider myself an old man when it comes to social media. I'm not really on social media at all, but truediagnostic.com and wildhealth.com, both of those have social media handles where they can follow along with all the research and everything that's going along. And
Perfect.
people can always reach out to me directly through either of those places
I
as well.
love it. Stay in your nerdy bubble in the woods. That's going to help people the most. Don't get sidetracked. I actually haven't been on social media for like 3 months, and it's astounding how caught up on life I've gotten. So I don't blame you. Well, I
Absolutely.
really appreciate your time. Thanks for being so generous and, educating us and, putting your passion out in the world, and it's helping thousands of people. So thank you for all of that. And any way I can support, definitely let me know, and we'll have you back on soon.
Thank you. So much fun to talk to you.
Likewise.